What if I told you that there's a team in the nation that has only lost to the last two national champions? That's right. They lost to Ohio State 2 years ago. They lost to Indiana this year. And that's it. 17 and 1 in their conference the last 2 years. They were, pretty much unbeatable, other than playing the team that ended up winning the national championship each of the last 2 years. You already know who that team is if you're a college football fan. You already know I'm talking about the Oregon Ducks. You know that Dan Lanning has got his hands full trying to get over the hump with a great roster and just keeps running into Kurt Cignetti and Ryan Day coach teams who end up putting them out of the college football playoffs. So, guys, today we're talking about the Oregon Ducks. And again, this is going to be a loaded roster for Oregon. First, I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. This is the You Think You Know Sports podcast. This really all started with the TikTok page where I have over 10,000 followers. Hope you'll hit me there. Hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, whatever they call it. We're on all social media these days, so you can check out videos on Oregon. You can also find a write-up on the Ducks that'll be posted soon after this podcast with a lot more information. But we're trying to get through every team in the country before college football season starts. We'll see if we get there. So Oregon was 13-2 last year, 8-1 in the Big Ten, 17-1 in the Big Ten the last 2 years, as I said. Look, when you're losing to Ohio State and Indiana, everybody's losing to those teams. But you got to get over the hump at some point. Dan Lanning's 48-8 in 4 years at Oregon. He's entering year 5. And while I don't think there's any hot seat at all on Dan Lanning, I think that people have kind of gotten this idea that Oregon is just not going to win the big one and is always going to be a little bit behind whoever they're chasing. And I think that that's completely crazy. I think Oregon has everything they need to go win a national championship, and that includes this season. So let's talk about the offense. Look, they averaged 35 points per game last year, number 13 in the country, 448 yards per game, which was number 12 in the country. And they've got Dante Moore back. I mean, we're talking about a guy who may be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. He completed 72% of his passes last year, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks. Again, I love to break down quarterbacks based on the toughest opponents they played. How did they fare against the best defenses? How did they look when the going really got tough and they didn't have an advantage on almost every position on the field, right? So in games against Texas Tech, Indiana again, because they played them twice and lost both, and at Iowa, which I will say was in a pouring rainstorm. I mean, it was awful weather back and forth, made great television, would have been fun to play in. Oregon survived that game, but that was a tough one, but it is included in this stat. He had 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. So in the other games he played, which would have been, 11 other games, 27 touchdowns and 5 picks. So in the 4 toughest games, Moore had 5 interceptions. He had a 75% completion rate in a clean pocket, 27 touchdowns and 7 picks in a clean pocket. Under pressure, he had 3 touchdowns and 3 picks. Completion percentage dropped to 57.5%. So the thing for Dante Moore to work on is when he does have a clean pocket, don't turn the ball over, right? You're reading the defense, you've got time, and those stats are from Pro Football Focus. You got time to make plays, right? You got playmakers all over the field. Use your legs if you need to. Don't give the ball away, right? Under pressure, you could see not as good, which no quarterback is, but I was surprised at the only three touchdowns under pressure last year. He's got a receiving core that most quarterbacks would dream about, right? Evan Stewart is back. He missed 2025 with a injury, 48 catches, 613 yards, 5 touchdowns in 2024. Decoria Moore had 34 catches and 3 touchdowns last year. Jeremiah McClellan had 38 catches, 557 yards, 3 touchdowns. That receiving core is going to give defensive coordinators nightmares, especially when you got a guy running the offense that has the pedigree of a Dante Moore in the backfield. Jordan Davison and De'Aaron Hill are back at running back. 667 yards and 15 touchdowns for Davison last year. Look, he finds the end zone, right? Dante Moore and these receivers get him down the field, and then Davison puts it in from there. They have got 2 offensive linemen back for an offensive line that is going to be revamped a little bit, but is going to be really, really good behind Remington finalist. And guys, I had to look up the pronunciation here to make sure I didn't butcher this, so I apologize if I get it wrong. Iopani Lalalu is the Remington finalist for Oregon, who plays center and is back. Is going to lead this offensive line. I try to look up all pronunciations before I start to try to get this right, but there are thousands and thousands and thousands of college football players that we talk about over the course of a season. They may have the nation's best defensive line. Every defensive lineman is back. Bear Alexander, Mateo Ugalele, Amari Washington are all back on the defensive line. They've got 2 linebackers back, 3 defensive backs back as well. And Corey Parrish has come in from Minnesota. That dude can play everywhere. So the fact that he's going to be in the defensive backfield for Oregon just adds to this defense. Oregon's defense may outpace its offense this year, which is crazy. They averaged 18 points per game last year, or opponents averaged 18 points per game last year against Oregon, number 11 in the country. 275 yards per game, number 5 in the country. Opponents completed 51.6% of their passes last year, number 3 in the country in passing yards allowed. And then, in completion percentage allowed. Yards per pass was 5.5, number 4 in the country. They allowed only 155 passing yards a game. I mean, Oregon was great on defense. They were fantastic on defense. And again, they've got 8 players back on defense, 6 on offense. They have the second most returning starters back in the entire nation. So Oregon is going to be right there in the Big Ten race. I don't think that there is any question about it as you break down this team and look forward to this schedule. Now, some magazines, Lindy's has got them number 1 in the country. You know, others don't have them quite as high, but pretty much everybody says they're a top 5 team. Here's the schedule. They open with Boise State, who absolutely expects to win the Pac-12, which feels weird to say, and to be in the college football playoff. We'll see. They go to Oklahoma State September 12th. Last year, they beat them by as many points as they wanted to. I mean, they could have scored 100 on Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State. Obviously, Oklahoma State has brought over most of the North Texas team now that was on the brink of going to the playoff last year. So we'll see what Drew Mestamaker and the offense can do against Oregon. Portland State, September 19th. They go to USC September 26th, host UCLA 2 weeks later after a bye on October 10th. They also host Nebraska October 17th. Then they go on the road for almost the first time in a month at Illinois October 24th, host Northwestern October 31st, play at the Ohio State University November 7th in one of the games of the year in college football, host Michigan on November 14th, and then they finish with a road game at Michigan State and a home game against Washington. So what stands out? No back-to-back road games on the entire schedule. I think that's big. Obviously, their 2 toughest games may be USC and Ohio State. Both of those are on the road. There's a lot of distance between those games. But look, when you have Dante Moore, when you have this receiving core, when you have this defense, Oregon's going to expect to be able to go anywhere and win. Absolutely anywhere. I don't know if they're the best team in the country going into the season, but I certainly understand why people would be picking them to go to the national championship game. There's no question in my mind why they would. So, guys, I appreciate you listening to this podcast on the Oregon Ducks. There is a lot to like about this team, a lot, just like Ohio State, who I did just before it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Ducks. Wherever you follow me on social media, hope you'll go comment on the video there or catch me on my next live. I'm usually live 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. The summer's thrown that schedule off a little bit, trying to get back to it as much as I can. Guys, you're listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast. Tell your friends. Appreciate you listening. Hope you have a great day. Thanks, guys.